All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today, wow, we got a lot to talk about here. Some serious polling data. Andrew Yang, how it affects the campaign. Cody, jump right in. What's going on?
Okay. Yeah, well, basically, I'm actually checking once again really quickly before we move forward to see if there isn't a fourth poll, but 3 big polls came out today. 2 would be qualifying polls for the next round of debates, which obviously is very important. And then we're going to have a 1 additional poll, which, while not being a qualifying poll, is probably the most fascinating results-wise.
And let me guess, the qualifying poll has the best results for Andrew Yang, so they don't want to use it?
Well, they announced who qualifies and who doesn't before. So, First one we're going to go through. We're going to run through 3 polls with you guys today. One's pretty interesting. So, first one we're going to go through is the New Hampshire and the Monmouth poll, which is conducted between 9/17 and 9/21. Released, I believe, today. And yes, I have it released as earlier this morning, February 24th. Anyway, so look at this poll. We have Elizabeth Warren, 27%, actually taking the lead over Biden. That's a trend we're seeing, is Warren actually beating Biden in polls, not just getting at the top. Sanders, like I've said, Sanders really should be focused on the actual threat to his campaign, which is Warren who's beating him. Anyway, we go through. Andrew Yang at 2%. The weird takeaway here is he's tied with Tom Steyer.
What?
Really weird. I don't know if this was the exact poll. Off topic a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard also qualified for the October debate on the strength of another.
Andrew Yang is tied with Tom Steyer. There's no Steyer
at 2%.
gang.
There's no Steyer gang. Well,
there's no Naruto running.
Oh, hold on, but here's what we'll jump to this one next. Because hold on.
Okay.
Emerson poll. This one is not going to qualify for the debates. Emerson poll drops. I know I kind of buried the lead here. Andrew Yang at 8%, highest he's hit in any poll ever done nationally by a major organization. 8% by far. I think a 5 is the next highest we have is a 5. But I mean, obviously, huge poll for Andrew Yang. Emerson, of course, recently released.
He's beating Buttigieg, Harris, Booker, Castro. He is clobbering everybody by margins.
Yeah, margin of error in this poll, I believe, is 4%, and I believe they polled about 500 people. Full disclosure on it. People are asking why is it so much higher in this. I think this Emerson poll is ahead of the curve, and we're going to see Andrew Yang at about 6 to 8% moving forward. I think this is more typical, because then we have one more poll I'm going to flip to: Nevada, Suffolk, and USA Today. And we can look, Andrew Yang's at 3%. Like the 2 and the 3 are about where he's been, but I think this Emerson poll is where he's trending towards. Also, Biden 23. You see Elizabeth Warren again beating Bernie Sanders and nipping on Biden's toes. And I believe in the Emerson we see the same thing. So the Warren-Sanders battle, someone's going to win the Warren-Sanders battle. And that person's probably going to be the clear front runner, because I don't think Biden's going to make it. But again, I don't want to bury the lead too much. Andrew Yang in a national poll at 8%, which is, really quickly, one last thing I'll run through, just Andrew Yang, what he's been hitting in polls. And it's a little small and hard to see, but if you can pull it up on the screen here, you will see Andrew Yang has been nowhere near 8, ever. So this 8 is very, very, very promising sign. Is it an outlier? Well, in a minute, we'll go through some of the Emerson data as far as how they did it. I think it's just, it shows he's trending up, and I believe he is trending up. It's one poll, though. You can't lose your head in one poll. You can look. It is, by definition, an outlier, being twice as high as the next nearest one. But I do think it's more typical of what we'll see.
Okay, and this is why I said in the last podcast that we did on polling data that for me, we need to codify and we need to canonize methodologies that are good, not institutions the DNC thinks are good. Because hasn't Emerson also been the only polls? Because we've been analyzing polls, and the Emerson polls have been continually doing 2 things correctly. Showing Andrew Yang overrepresented, more demonstrative of like the Twitter polls that correctly predicted Donald Trump's success instead of the landline and the telephone polls that didn't predict his success. So they've trended closer to the types of polls that correctly predicted 2016. And also they're one of the only polls that correctly predicted the rise of Elizabeth Warren. So if they're correctly predicting the rise of Elizabeth Warren and they are also overrepresenting Yang, more consistent with what online data shows and more modern data shows, shouldn't we be trusting Emerson more than we should be trusting what's been approved by the DNC? And doesn't that just show that obviously if the Emerson polls are clocking him in at 8% amongst 1,000 voters, over 500 voters, their methodologies are obviously different than the people that consistently only get him at 1, 2, or 3%. obviously these people are doing something right over here at Emerson that the others aren't. So shouldn't we be using the Emerson polls as data? I'm not being sycophantic here.
Well,
I'm literally saying these people are the only ones that have correctly predicted the rise of Elizabeth Warren that we were saying months ago, saying she's the shadow frontrunner.
Hold on.
Yeah?
No, they haven't at all. That's actually just completely untrue, unfortunately.
What do you mean completely untrue? They have shown that she is...
No, hold on. Let's go through Emerson. Most recent poll, she's tied with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
The poll before that...
Nobody would put her as tied.
The poll before that, Bernie Sanders was hammering her 24-15.
Oh, yeah, no, she was coming out from
and then
very
the
low
poll before
numbers.
that, he's beating her. I'm just saying that hasn't been the one that's been flagging Warren.
No, I'm saying that they have correctly showed that she has been trending upwards better than others have, right? No, how not? How not?
I mean, I'm just looking at
Show me the data.
Dude, the data's... I don't want to get bogged down in this. I don't think it's that important. Just the data. It's not Emerson that's showing Elizabeth Warren. For example, let's just take this little bunch of polls. This poll had Warren beating Sanders. Every poll had them neck and neck. And then the Emerson poll is the weird outlier where he's clobbering her. It just hasn't been Emerson. I mean, I think you have him confused with another organization, but it was not Emerson that did that. It's not a big deal. I don't want to get bogged down on this. It's really not a big deal. I'm just saying that the numbers don't bear out to that. The numbers say that Emerson poll has actually been almost uniquely pessimistic to the Warren campaign in relation to Bernie Sanders. But
uniquely pessimistic, you think, huh? I know that. No, I don't think it's pessimistic to say, hey, you're lowering, but hasn't Emerson showed that she's been rising for the past 6 months?
Like I said, if you just look at the last Emerson poll that came out, they actually had her uniquely behind Bernie Sanders, more so than anyone else.
But I know that she'll be behind, but doesn't it show that
more
her
so than anyone
rising?
else? They had the most pessimistic impression of her.
Huh, interesting. Okay, maybe I stand corrected. Anyway, I still stand by my idea that the methodologies are bad in a lot of these polls.
But also, I mean,
I don't trust them like I do some of these online polls, and this I'm telling you, everybody thinks Donald Trump's wasn't gonna be an easy victory in 2016, and he clobbered it. Everybody thinks that he's gonna be an easy pushover in 2020, and no, the way they're acting, he's gonna clobber them if some of these other good, reasonable Democrats don't get a fairer shake, and not a fairer shake, but get a chance. And I don't know. I see a lot of this kind of elitism, thinking that we know where the people are by a lot of the elites that don't know where the people are. And there's a lot of just confirmation bias coming out from these traditional polling organizations. So, I mean, truthfully, the proof is going to be in the pudding. Once we actually start having these primary states voting in and we can actually compare the data of what the polls said versus what the people said. I mean, am I wrong?
The one pitfall I would say there is you run into an issue where just what happens when there's, 572 organizations doing not even the right, just the guidelines for DNC methodology. We have 527 organizations releasing qualifying polls. It'd be madness. I think there's some reason in limiting it to like 15 or 20. We want more than 5, but we can't just have Jimbo's local Twitter poll company count because his methodology is sound. Like, I think that's the reasoning behind it, is they want to make sure it's more like we can limit it to just the few.
Okay, fair enough.
Otherwise startups would be just sprouting up. Now here's a couple things I want to get to into the Monmouth poll, because it is, 8% is the highest he's ever hit, right? It is definitely something to be looked at. So this is what I thought was interesting. So now, we referenced before a number about 464. That number refers to Democratic primary voters for the Yang portion of the poll. The Emerson poll encompassed more. That's why some of the numbers are off here. Yeah. But the September National Emerson College poll was conducted between the 21st and 23rd. The sample consisted of registered voters with a credibility interval similar to a poll's margin of error. The data was weighted by ethnicity, age, mode, gender, region based on 2016 turnout modeling. Okay, so they're basing it based on who's actually voting from which group, right?
Yeah.
If somebody, even though it's only one person out of 450, if they're from a group that never votes, then they'll weigh that lower from a group that has a lot of people voting. That's interesting. It's also important to remember that subsets based on gender, age, and party breakdown, ethnicity, and region carry with them higher margin of errors. And this is the fascinating part I want to get to. Data was collected using an interactive voice response system of landlines only, about 60%. However, about 40% was an online panel provided by Amazon Turk. And when you hear Amazon Turk, you are right. It is the one and the same Amazon. It is, I believe, the Amazon Mechanical Turk is a crowdsourcing marketplace that makes it easier for individuals and businesses to outsource their processes and jobs to a distributed workforce who can perform these tasks virtually. And then it keeps going on. So, yeah, I mean, it is one and the same. I want to kind of do more research into exactly what this means, but you can look and we're right here.
I mean, this is a fulfillment of exactly what I was saying where, hey, if the methodologies are good, why can't you have better online data, right?
And we're seeing now, because it is a crowdsourced market, basically the idea being is that that's why this isn't considered a Emerson / Amazon.
Did he have to name it
poll
after
zone.
the Turks? Like, really, does it have to be called the Turk?
I'm almost.
Do we have to disparage the
I'm
people
almost
from Turkey?
1,000,000% positive it's in reference to some acronym, and not a chosen name. But
the Turks are coming.
But I thought that was really fascinating though, because we talked a lot about like all these only landline polls. For at the very least, like I say, for sure, this Emerson poll is not only landline, and I have to imagine some others. Also, for those of you who don't know, Amazon powers like 50% of every website in the planet in one way or another, and now we have them powering political polls. So it is a little bit fascinating. Amazon squirts their way into everything somehow, but
you'd think they'd be deprioritizing Andrew Yang with how many times he's directly referenced Amazon.
That's why it's
Jeff
crowdsourced.
Bezos. Yeah.
It's crowdsourced. They have no influence, allegedly. They shouldn't have any influence. It should be of the will of the people, so to speak. But that is the big part of the story. Like I said, guys, today 3 polls came out. 2 are qualifying. I believe 1 bumped Tulsi into the October debate. That's cool. And then looking ahead for, November debates, one of these polls, the 3% Yang hit in Nevada, that actually is going to help him make it to the stage. I mean, like I said, he's not officially there. I believe I said he was officially there. He's not officially qualified yet for the debate, only because, and I'm going to show you guys one more kind of neat thing. A shout out to, I'm going to get his name wrong. I'll get his name right at the end. Zach Montalero at Politico, and I guess Stephen Shepard. They've created a really cool Google Doc to help us track who's going to make it to the debate coming up in November. Who's going to make it? Yeah. And this is really cool, so we'll highlight for you guys. One of the reasons why people are saying, has he qualified? I thought he had qualified. A little confusion. I believe only 5 qualifying polls have been released. So that is the reason why Andrew hasn't qualified. You notice that Buttigieg has, Harris has, Sanders has, Warren has, and I believe Biden as well has. Andrew Yang is got the donor marks, and you'll notice that recent Suffolk poll. Make sure you guys can read it. I got to move it a little bit. I'm sorry about that, guys. So you guys can get a better view. But you'll see that the most recent Suffolk poll was the second qualifying poll that Andrew Yang will need to make it to the November. Holy cow, couldn't think of the day. November debates. And I'll have a link to this in the description. Sorry about that, guys. Here you go. I'll have a link to this in the description as well, so you guys can look at it for yourself. I thought it'd be cool to give everyone an overview of exactly what we are looking at. You'll notice that for example, Tulsi Gabbard hasn't actually hit a 3% in any of these polls yet. So the fact that Andrew Yang is moving up, Tom Steyer's only got 1, just some other kind of more outside. Beto O'Rourke only has 1. Yang's got 2. Amy Klobuchar made the debates last time, might not this time. Julian Castro hasn't got 1. So it is something to say that. And like I said, you'll notice if Andrew Yang could hold more consistently at about an 8 or even 5 or 6%, I mean, that 1-8, getting 1-8% in a poll bumped his aggregate up from 3 to 3.6. So if you can get a few more in that area, we could see him moving up. And I mean, I've been saying this for a while, and a lot of people are saying this as well. It looks like Andrew Yang by the end of November should be basically, there's like the S-tier frontrunners, Biden, Warren, Sanders, and then I think Yang is going to emerge from the pack.
Yeah, the question is just when does Joe Biden bounce, and who do Joe Biden's supporters end up voting for?
Who he endorses, right?
Yeah,
I mean that's a big one too. What if he endorses?
Would Joe Biden endorse Andrew Yang? I mean, we know that he's privately asked him about gutting the middle class multiple times.
Well, he's talked about automation, and he's even said Fourth Industrial Revolution. He said it on TV, right? So
yeah. I mean, was that just him shamelessly trying to sound in the know by, copycatting things that Andrew Yang, the big tech guy, said, like Buttigieg and Kirsten Gillibrand did for those 2 or 3 months? Or is it actually genuine is the question?
Well, I mean, maybe they're just good ideas, right? And he's like, hey, that's a good idea. I like that. I think I might steal that one. I mean,
yeah, I regularly say things that you say in, social circles just to sound more intelligent, Cody. And I would not put that past Joe Biden. I mean, that's just, we call that the boomer special.
Well, be careful if you want to sound more intelligent. You might sound less intelligent saying the things I say, but woo! But the last thing I want to highlight on this stuff before, and we'll go on if you have anything else you want to touch on it, but this is really fascinating, guys. An 8% in a national poll. It's really fascinating for NJ. You'll notice he's ahead of Buttigieg. You'll notice Kamala Harris is done. Like no one has faith in Harris anymore. She is done.
Dude, there is no rest for the weary, and nobody mourns the wicked, my friend.
Harris is, I guess, yeah. Most people, even I know, even like Democrat voters who are like normally like, oh, you know, they're pretty fine. Most Democrats are like, you know what? I really don't like Kamala Harris. It's like if there's one person I thought was like a bad person running, it'd be her. So I hear that a lot from people. Yeah. I just do think it's fascinating. Like I said, I think this is more indicative. It is one poll, and it is by definition an outlier. It's the only one that shows him this high. But you'll also notice the fact that Andrew Yang is kind of, I don't know if this poll that has him tied with Tom Steyer, Amy Klobuchar, or Tulsi Gabbard from New Hampshire is his thing. I think nationally, though, I would agree nationally is where Yang is going to be his strongest. So he's going to have to maybe focus a little bit on these more regional polls, because the two polls he underperformed in, the other thing is we're both regional. Nationally did well. That could be the rub here as well. He's struggling a little bit in maybe some early states, but nationally he's really got that run. So reading into these polls in relation to Andrew Yang and what it means for everyone else, that's really what I take from it. I think that the Warren hype over Sanders is real, and it's true. The hype's at the point in New Hampshire. It looks like Warren might win the state. Ironically enough, New Hampshire voters said that Elizabeth Warren couldn't beat Donald Trump, so I don't know what they're thinking, but it looks like she's doing pretty good in that state. The fact that Bernie Sanders is slipping to Warren, though, is absolutely apparent in all three of these polls released today. So the two big takeaways I have from today's polls: that it looks like it's over. It looks like Warren won the battle against Sanders. Warren's going to win out over Sanders one way or another. I heard there was actually when Bernie Sanders, I think it was Bernie Sanders. I hope I'm not getting it wrong.
You can out crazy.
But when someone got on stage at the steak fry they had recently, I guess all of the paid Warren supporters got up and left and walked out and said something about how they're not going to support a male candidate or whatever. So the fact that we're seeing that Elizabeth Warren, whether it's paid or legit,
well, it's because
those crowds are starting to turn on other frontrunners towards her, just anecdotally, and then in the polls we're seeing her also lurch ahead. So I think that's another cool takeaway aside from Andrew Yang.
But don't we see though that this makes intersectional sense, that, you know, she's a woman, so she's going to be doing better, but also she's a very attacked and a very victimized woman because she's more victimized than the real American Indians. Aren't the fake American Indians more marginalized by Donald Trump than the real indigenous peoples? Therefore, isn't she more entitled to those votes, Cody?
I have no idea what you're talking about. No idea what you're talking about. No. As a matter of fact, there's actually a lot of progressive reasons to attack Elizabeth Warren. I believe she's accepted awards on behalf of being a woman of a color that's achieved. It's like, Elizabeth Warren, really? Really? It's one thing to check a box.
I'm illustrating the hypocrisy of this whole thing, okay?
Went over my head. It's one thing to check a box. It's another thing to actually accept awards on behalf of something you probably aren't. So, like I said, there's progressive knocks on her as well. That's the one tough thing I think about them trying to attack progressively Bernie Sanders. It's like there's plus, there's never been a Jewish president, so that's the other thing. Bernie Sanders still would be the first Jewish president, which still I think is interesting to people.
Oh, yeah. And I guess I never really thought about that. We've never had a Jewish president?
No one ever thinks about that. No, we haven't. Yeah. What a surprise. There's never been, I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, we've never had a Jewish president.
Well, I mean,
Bernie Sanders,
but see, I grew up in the era of, come on, who's the one that made the Hanukkah song? Great comedian, Adam Sandler. I grew up in the era of, you know, Adam Sandler's,
president Adam Sandler.
You know, like the Hanukkah song, like showing how everybody that we like was cool. Like we didn't realize everybody and their dog was Jewish, you know, because the Hanukkah song. You'd think that we never had a Jewish president.
No, actually, Bernie Sanders is the closest we ever got.
And you know, before JFK, we never had a non-Protestant.
Yeah,
actually,
he's first Catholic as well. Yeah.
I guess I'd never really considered.
Yeah, way back in the '60s, we had the first Catholic. Still waiting on the first Jewish president. I don't know. Might happen one day.
Yeah.
According to Elizabeth Warren, it's more important for whatever she is to be president before a Jewish person.
Yeah, okay, cool. Rock on. Anyway, hey, let us know what you guys think. What is the implication of this poll? The implications of the other polls. What does it all mean? And please comment below. Give us your opinion. If you haven't liked this video yet, please like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Follow us today on Twitch so you can catch up with us during the live stream. We're going to stream tonight on Twitch. We also stream on Thursdays on Twitch, where you can give us a sub if you got an Amazon Prime account. And if you want to contribute to the channel, please check out the PayPal link below. It will be in the description. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you guys in the next video.